The date was Thursday, July 28, 1966. The time was about 23:00 hours and the theater of events was Abeokuta Garrison. Reports of the impending coup had already spread across different barracks in the country and Abeokuta Garrison was not left out. But the commanding officer of the garrison, Lieutenant Colonel Gabriel Okonweze, was not going to allow the rumor without action. In his effort to forestall the coup, he became the first victim of the coup. In this edition of Hispo Media, I will bring to your viewing pleasure the story of how the first victim of July 1966 counter-coup in Nigeria was claimed. Welcome to this edition of Hispo Media. Gabriel here. Do remember to take a moment to subscribe to Hispo Media and like this video so the algorithm can show it to more people. Thank you. Shortly before 23:00 hours on July 28, 1966, Lieutenant Colonel Gabriel Okonweze, commander of the Abeokuta Garrison, was tipped off by Lieutenant Colonel Patrick Anwunah that the long-anticipated northern counter-coup was scheduled to begin that night. What Anwunah did not know for sure was that the coup had in fact once again been postponed by its chief planner on account of a leak. Lieutenant Colonel Patrick Anwunah was the General Staff Officer 1 for Intelligence at Army Headquarters in Lagos. Earlier that evening, Anwunah had confronted Lieutenant Colonel Muritala Mohammed in Yaba, Lagos, with information that he was planning a counter-coup. This led to a heated exchange between them. Anwunah initially thought that this confrontation would in fact deter the plot from going ahead and planned to do nothing else. But having been prompted by Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Madibo to take some precautionary steps and perhaps being in receipt of additional information, he took it upon himself to alert some unit commanders, one of whom was Lieutenant Colonel Gabriel Okonweze. An alternative account specifies that Okonweze was also alerted by Hilary Njoku. Lieutenant Colonel Okonweze therefore called a meeting of all available officers, both Igbos and non-Igbos, at the mess in Abeokuta Garrison. When all the officers had gathered in the mess, Okonweze made the following announcement. Quote, "Gentlemen, I have just been informed that there is going to be a coup tonight. Any one of you who knows anything about the coup should please tell us. You may know the beginning, but you may never know the end. I am not ambitious. My only ambition is to become a full colonel. If you know anything, please let me know. I am not going to report anyone. What we are going to do is to avoid what happened in January, where officers were taken unawares. We are going to wake up soldiers, ask them to go to the armory to get issued with arms and ammunition." Some of the officers present in this meeting included Lieutenant Colonel Gabriel Okonweze himself, Major John Obienu, the RIS commander, Lieutenant Gabriel Idoko, Lieutenant D.S. Abubakar, Odati Abubakar of the RIS Squadron, Lieutenant I.S. Umar, and Lieutenant A.B. Maman of the Artillery Units. Lieutenant E.B. Orok of RIS later came in his Volkswagen. Captain M. Ramawa, RIS 2IC, and Captain Domkat Bali, Artillery Battery Commander, were at the Abeokuta Club. Captain Ogbonna, Infantry Company Commander, was also in town. Thereafter, an Igbo non-commissioned officer went around the barracks, waking soldiers excitedly, saying, come out, there is trouble, go to the armory and collect your armor." This alert woke up Sergeant Sabo Kole, an NCO from the Bachama area of Adamawa State. In the charged atmosphere of prevailing rumors at that time, Kole wrongly interpreted the Igbo NCO's action as an attempt by Okonweze to selectively wake up Igbo soldiers who thus have an advantage in what was alleged to be an effort to finish what they started in January. He therefore woke up another neighbor, Corporal May Samari Maje, also of Bachama, who happened to be the armorer of the unit. He told Maje to go to the armory and ensure that only northerners would be issued with weapons. Meanwhile, assisted by Corporal Inu Asara, he mobilized a small guard of northern soldiers to protect the armory against any attempt to dislodge them, while he made arrangements to disarm the quarter guard. Having secured the armory, Sergeant Kole issued weapons and ammo to a section of assault troops. Assisted by Maje and including Corporal J. Shagaya, the group advanced to the officer's maze under the direction of the duty officer, Lieutenant Pam Onwadikon. Pam Onwadikon is the younger brother of the late Lieutenant Colonel James Yakubu Pam, who was shot in Ikoyi by Major Chris Anuforo in January. As they arrived at the maze, they ordered all officers present to raise their hands, and their first victim was claimed immediately. When Okonweze challenged them, he was summarily executed right there and then. Major John Obienu, commander of the rear squadron sitting next to Okonweze, was also shot dead and became their second victim. Lieutenant E. Orok was driving in to join the meeting, saw what was happening, shouted at the soldiers, and was shot dead right under the tree where he parked his car. In the chaos that followed, some northern soldiers were also shot. Notably, Lieutenant Gabriel Idoko, mistaken for Igbo because he was wearing an English dress, was shot. He was lucky to survive. Some Igbo soldiers of other ranks in the garrison were subsequently rounded and shot. But as it turns out, not all Igbo officers in the Abeokuta Garrison were killed. Ogbonna escaped and was the one who initially made urgent informal calls to the 2nd Battalion in Lagos and the 4th Battalion in Ibadan. Much later, Ogbonna also contacted Lieutenant Colonel Ogunewe of the 1st Battalion and Ojukwu at the State House in Enugu. Meanwhile, almost simultaneously, Lieutenant Pam phoned Lieutenant Garba Dada Paiko, the adjutant of the 4th Battalion in Ibadan at Mokola Barracks, saying, "Look, we have done our own. If you people just sit down there, we have finished our own. We have finished the Igbo officers here. We liberated our units." He was wrong though, because Ogbonna was alive and Lieutenant John Nikoli also survived. When Captain Ramawa and Captain Domkat Bali returned to the barracks from town, they met the dead bodies of Okonweze, Obienu, and Orok in or around the maze. On sighting these bodies, they changed quickly into combat dresses and got themselves armed. Captain Remawa then contacted Army headquarters in Lagos to notify Lieutenant Colonel Gowon of events that had just happened. Gowon ordered Remawa to collect the corpses, secure the garrison, and await further instructions. This order that was given by Gowon to Captain Ramawa sent shivers down the spines of the junior northern officers like Lieutenant D.S. Abubakar at Abeokuta, who feared that they would all be arrested for the killings in the maze. Therefore, they decided that come what may, they would fight to the finish to ensure the end of Ironsi's regime. This impulse was primarily self-preservative. Then, Gowon contacted Brigadier Ogundikpe, the then Chief of Staff, Supreme Headquarters, and got orders to mobilize army units in Lagos. Both Ogundikpe and Gowon initially tried to reach Ironsi directly in Ibadan, but failed. It was when Gowon was trying to get Colonel Njoku at the guest house that he spoke to Major Danjuma. Ogundikpe then notified the police hierarchy, including the commissioner in Ibadan. But his first attempt to investigate events at the 4th Battalion was strongly rebuffed by the battalion adjutant, who told him to steer clear. However, flying policeman Mr. Joseph Adiola eventually got through to Government House Ibadan sometime around 1 a.m., some say around 12:30, to notify General Ironsi of events. Adiola had replaced Timothy Omobare as the Commissioner of Police in the Midwest and was one of those kidnapped by Biafran forces to Enugu in August 1967. By this time though, Major Danjuma, Lieutenant James Onoja, and elements of the 4th Battalion were in the process of arriving to cordon off the Government House building in Ibadan. Meanwhile, before he was finally arrested shortly before 8 a.m., Ironsi had made requests for a police helicopter from Lagos and made other efforts to mobilize loyal units. Some sources say by the time a helicopter arrived, he and Colonel Fadji had been taken away. His last formal military contact was with Kaduna to mobilize the 1st Brigade. However, The commander of the 1st Brigade, Lieutenant Colonel Wellington Bassey, was not present, so he spoke to Major Samuel Ogbomodia, then the brigade major, telling him all is not well. Unfortunately, the brigade was too far away to be of any immediate tactical value, even if it wanted to. Meanwhile, Ogbona's call to Lieutenant Colonel Igboba at the 2nd Battalion in Ikeja preceded Remawa's call to Army Headquarters. Unfortunately, it was intercepted by Lieutenants Nuhu Nathan and Malamina Sarawa. Nathan was the duty officer and had been contacted earlier by Murtala Muhammad about the postponement of the coup. When Ogbona gave him the message to relay to Igboba about happenings in Abeokuta, he immediately contacted Murtala Muhammad instead. Muhammad had just gotten off the phone with the boys at Ibadan and finally realized that events were moving faster than he had initially thought. He then gave the go-ahead to Nathan and Nasarawa to mobilize northern troops at Ikeja and launch operations to preempt predictable effort by the establishment to regain control. His orders were followed through as they secured the armory, distributed weapons selectively, and got busy rounding up Igbo soldiers. It is established that northern NCOs and ordinary soldiers later went wild. A typical example of a coded word for the murder of an Igbo captive was to take him to the House of Chiefs. Even if their officers did not explicitly give an order for an Igbo soldier to be shot, they would shoot him anyway and shout accidental discharge. That was how the event of July 29, 1966 counter-coup began in the garrison at Abeokuta and spread across the country to become one of the bloodiest coups in Africa. Click here for the story of the assassination of Lieutenant Colonel Francis Adekunle Fajuyi during this coup in Ibadan. For more stories like this, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Hispo Media. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Peace.